This is an ArseBrothers production. Follow us on Twitter at the ArseBrothers. Get all our content on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and SoundCloud at ArseBros. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Hey, welcome to this, an ArseBrothers Rankcast, and a podcast where I remembered to press... Wait, let me check. Where I remembered to press the record button. Well, I had to check it, didn't I? I remembered to press the record button this week, which makes a really great difference from last week, which was a bit of a fucking disaster. But Ryan, the viewers have to excuse me because I've got vertigo. I've got vertigo from standing upon the top of the table at the moment. The most winningest record. The most winningest. The most winningest record in the Premier League at the moment. And it's been a real journey. It's always a journey being an Arsenal fan on Twitter in particular, because somehow even things that should not be divisive are divisive. Like this week, fans are having a go at other fans for either being too positive and like tweets like, hey, pump the brakes, let's not talk about winning the league. And then other fans having a go at fans being like, how dare you tell me how positive I should be. It's a real fucking journey, Ryan. How you holding up, buddy?
I'm good. I got my Carlsberg because we're going to be in the Champions League this season. So I'm going to just open that up right away because we're going to win the league. We're going to win the Champions League. We're going to do all that good stuff.
And if we don't,
it's be great.
If we don't, it's not that bad. I reckon it's like trying to fuck a really hot girl, winning the Premier League. It's like if you don't try and if you don't believe that you can, you have failed before you even tried to walk up to it. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to believe that you can. And I feel like for Arsenal, this is the analogy that best fits at the moment. It's like you want to fuck the Champions League, you want to fuck the Premier League, you got to think I'm good enough. And then the Champions League isn't so hot. Like she's hot as fuck, but she isn't so hot that I can't get it done. And if you try, Ryan, and you get shot down, at least you know that you tried.
Yeah, I know exactly. What's that saying? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So it's very similar, except without hot girls and tits and shit. But
to steal an American saying, Ryan, you got to shoot your shot.
Yeah,
and that's what we're doing at the start of the season. We're fucking shooting our shot.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the hardest schedule, but we can only play what's in front of us. And I'll go toe to toe with anyone that's just like, oh, our schedule. I think Palace is a good team. I think Palace. I said this on other pods. I think Palace is going to finish close to a Europa Conference League spot, or maybe even get it. I think they're good. They're a really good team that well coached by Vieira. I think we're going to see what we're actually made of when we go against teams that like that are going to have more possession than us. While I do think Palace is a good team, playing a team like City and Liverpool is going to be a little different.
I mean, not wanting to blow my load completely early.
Come on, blow it in my face.
Not wanting to completely ejaculate all over the internet, but we're 3 from 3. We've got Fulham next. We've got Villa after that. We've got Man U after that. Granted, a resurgent Man U in some ways. We've got Everton after that, who I'm convinced are relegation fodder. Followed by Brentford. That's before we get to Spurs and Liverpool. I mean, is there a world... And again, you've got to shoot your shot. You've got to believe it's possible. Is there a world where Arsenal are 8 wins from the first 8?
Yeah, in a perfect world, I think so. But I do think that, I feel like I just heard this the other day, but we're gonna have that game that we're supposed to win and we don't, or we draw, or we lose, and it's going to happen. And I think I personally it'll probably happen for those games. But I mean, seeing us play the way we've played these 3 games, yes, I get the competition. It's exciting though, and I think doing these podcasts, especially with us and with other shows, it's tough to really have like an interesting show because you're not really debating. You're just kind of like, oh, we're great, we're this, we're that, we're jerking each other off. And I love a good jerk off sesh. My friend John will tell you, a good circle jerk, really keeps the sleepover alive. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just, you got to take the bad with the good. I think there's going to be a lot more good this season.
But there's been no bad. There's been
no
bad.
I'm saying there will be, though. We're not going to win 38 games.
This is what I'm saying is why predict badness? It's like I think it's a self-preservation thing for Arsenal fans more than anything. It's like, well, if I predict that we're going to lose and we keep winning, then somehow that makes it better, or that'll make it less bad when we lose or when we drop points. But I think the real lesson here is everyone is going to lose this season. So Man City have already had a loss. Liverpool have already had a loss. Everyone has had a loss.
Man City has not lost yet. They drew.
They drew. Sorry, has not won a game.
There you go.
And as I sent Darren a message earlier in the week, and I was like, I am as confident as I've been, and I think maybe not unbeaten, right? Or maybe not. I reckon there could be a draw in there, is what I'm saying. I reckon there could be a draw in there. But I reckon we could not lose for these first 8 games. Darren, you're the most positive person that has ever existed on the planet. Some say more positive than Jesus Christ himself, who was very positive. He was a very positive man. Whether or not he was the son of God is another question. Might have just been a fucking lunatic who was walking around pouring wine on bread. I haven't read the Bible. Haven't read the Bible cover to cover, only the bits that the school forced me to. But Darren, I know you're very positive and you're naturally going to say, yes, we're going to win 8 from 8. But if for once in your life you can put your fucking sensible hat on for us. This run of fixtures, coming up, Tottenham would be our ninth game of the season. Do you think it's very likely that we could be standing upon the lofty heights at the very top of the table still come that Tottenham game?
I haven't looked forward to the 8 games. I know people keep saying we've got an easy run. Do you know who they are, top of your head?
Yeah. I just read them out before. We've got Fulham next. We've got Fulham, followed by Villa, followed by Man U, followed by Everton, followed by Brentford.
Okay, I think the toughest out of those is Brentford.
Yeah.
This is. Do you know what? We're gonna have a great season this year. I mean, I don't mean Arsenal. Obviously, we're gonna have a great season. Arsenal. By the way, hello Brian. You all right, mate? Sorry, I'm late. I forgot all about it again. I was so pleased when I had to come on because I'm helping my mate build a wall in 35 degrees heat, and I really didn't want to do it. And I was looking for excuses not to. And
he's a Tottenham fan. He's a Tottenham fan.
He's a Tottenham fan.
He can fucking build it himself, cunt.
Yeah, but then it'll fall down.
Yes.
Honestly, I think we're in for a fantastic season. The Premier League, because there are some really good sides out there. City look unstoppable to me. They still look. I mean, I watched their game against Newcastle, and Newcastle were flying at times, and City still managed to peg that back. And I was blowing a whistle watching that game, wanting it to end, because I just can see Man City having an unbeaten season. I think they are that good. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But he's done at City what Klopp hasn't done at Liverpool. He's really refreshed that side, so they look like they're hungry again. Liverpool look tired. Liverpool look jaded. But there's some sides there we've seen already. Newcastle. Brentford, Leeds United, these sides, Brighton, look really good football sides. They are not going to be easy to beat.
That guy, Danny, he's my boy. I love him.
But I just think that, so looking at our future games, and there's also some teams who look really poor. I think there's going to be Leicester. A result against Leicester doesn't actually carry too much now because they look pretty awful in their results. Bournemouth aren't very good. So I don't think we should get too carried away with this excellent start. We have looked very, very good against very, very mediocre opposition in the last 2 games. Palace, however, was a stern test, beat us 3-0 end of last year. And their form's good. They've gone on to Liverpool and got a point. Should have won that game. So I just, I don't think we should get too carried away with how good we are, but we should get carried away with just how much fun it is to be an Arsenal fan.
I think we should get
because we haven't
carried
had
away
some
as
fun.
what we. I think we should get as carried away as possible. Because why would you not? Why would you not enjoy this? I was saying before you jumped on, Darren, there's people arguing on Twitter at the moment about Arsenal fans saying we're going to win the league, saying, "Are you stupid? Don't be saying that we're going to win the league." And you've got Arsenal fans arguing with other Arsenal fans saying, "Oh, that's ridiculous. I'll support how I want to support." Who gives a fuck? Just support with the right intentions. Support with the intention that is to support your fucking football club. And if the support is good enough, and if the energy is good enough, and the light globe, as Mikel Arteta says, it transmits the energy into the football club, then good fucking things are going to happen. And you should be excited, because I will take anyone back to the first 3. How many of you cunts can fucking be whinging about fucking anything 3 from 3 from where we started last season is absolutely beyond me. So do everyone a favor, shut the fuck up, watch the game on the weekend, and support your fucking club. That's all I have to say about that. Fuck yourselves. Fucking miserable cunts.
We've been saying that there's been a constant throughout this podcast over the last couple of years. Is that, I love Arsenal. I don't particularly like the supporters. I'm starting to fall in love with the supporters again. At the stadium last weekend, it was fantastic. It really, COVID has done such a favour for Arsenal because it's killed off a lot of old people.
And another thing, Darren.
Didn't expect you to say that.
Almost fucking killed you off as well, Darren.
No, it didn't. That's lung cancer. That's completely different. Nothing to do with COVID. I've had COVID twice. It's fine. We can cope with COVID. But it's killed off a lot of old people, and it's scared off a lot of people from coming back. And the club did this thing of giving people a year-long season ticket break. And I was worried that this year, a lot of those people would come back, jump on the bandwagon. You can't call the Arsenal fans in the stadium glory hunters, because we've been turning up year in, year out and watching us slowly decline over the last 10 years. But what we have done is we've got rid of a lot of the people who just got so fed up, and COVID, with a 2-year break from going into stadiums or however long it was, has actually... Those people who didn't really care about Arsenal, didn't have the passion for the club, who just went to the stadium because it's almost like a status symbol, having a season ticket at Arsenal. And they went and watched the game with misery, looking for that negativity. I hated it. I've had more fights with people inside the stadium than I ever have before in the last 3 or 4 years, from the Wenger out brigade to just the negativity, the Xhaka stuff, booing players when they come on, booing players when they go off. This doesn't help. Anyone who's got any ounce of sense knows that when you are negative towards a player, it doesn't help. There's nothing that can help. So now in the stadium, we've got rid of those supporters, and suddenly it feels like every single person in that stadium wants the team to do well. And that's look, it's easy when we're winning. The acid test will be when we do lose a few games. And as I just called into what Ryan was saying, let's be sensible. I don't think this is an invincible side. This is a very, very good young side that hopefully in 3 or 4 years will be competing for the Champions League, for winning the Champions League. We can have that excitement because there is a core of the team that is below 25. And if they continue to improve and don't get sold to pay off debts, or sold because the owners want some money, or because a club like Manchester City will come in and buy them, give these players instant success. These players bought into it, and the crowd's bought into it. And how much fun is it? It's just so much fun being there at the moment.
Well, we have to look at this as a journey, and Arsenal fans have to look at this as a journey. And I think if we take everything that's going on in the world right now, and I'm not sure whether it's generational or environmental, but there is such an element of nowness in modern society where everyone wants something now and they want it today, and they're not willing to enjoy the journey that gets you there. I mean, this journey is much like a penis. In order to get to the base of the penis and become fully entered inside of the female species, at first, Darren, we must pass the tip. We must get through the tip before we work our way down the shaft, and then we get down to the balls. And I think that is the way that all Arsenal fans need to be considering this football club now. I think we're about a third of a dick. We're about a third of a dick right now. And I think by the end of this season, I think worst case scenario will be half a dick. Best case scenario will be 3/4 of a dick. If we end up entire dick, that will be a very, very, very special day. Ryan?
I mean, it's funny because I just like whenever it goes down to me and plays with the head of my penis. So the shaft and the balls,
You've only got the head of a penis.
I just want the tip. Yeah, well, okay, there you go. It's fair. I just like the head. Yeah, no, I think
it's a journey, Ryan. That's what I'm getting at. It's a journey, and we need to enjoy the journey instead of just concentrating on the destination. We need to enjoy the journey that gets us there.
In the All or Nothing documentary, he was like, "Oh, it's the destination. That's what's most important." May have to be a complete asshole, but that's fine. He's not with the club anymore. But no, I agree. I love the journey last season, and I was one that was on my soapbox, and I was constantly saying, "I want Europa. I don't even care if we get Champions League. If we get it, like awesome. We'll have more fans that are excited. We'll have maybe more money to spend. We'll attract, better talent. But as far as your Sambi Lakongas, your Eddie Nketiahs, Vieira's, players that we want to give minutes to, Europa League is like perfect because these players are going to shine. They're going to look good, and it's going to make them better for when we need them. Come injuries to, let's say, Thomas Partey or Ben White. Which may have or may not have growth problems. Yeah, fair. Which may or may not have happened already. So, preparing our depth for battle, so to say, is I think very important. And I think the best for us to do it is Europa League.
I think one final thing before we move on to the next point I want to say is, I think the ideas of division and righteousness and this desire to be correct is something that as a fan base we have to move away from. And I think that with open arms, we should invite back fans who nailed their colours to the mast and feel that they can't unnail those colours. And, I'll put my hand up as someone who podcasts and someone who's, got hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours of recorded bad opinions on here. I think part of being human is being able to retract a comment and say, I was wrong. I was wrong about Arteta. Because you know what? In a year, we may be sitting here saying, we were wrong about Arteta and he wasn't good enough and he wasn't the right guy and he lost the squad or he made bad decisions because, time isn't a start point and an end point. It's always going to change and it's always going to evolve, and this journey is going to change and evolve. And in 10 years' time, we'll be looking back at this and thinking about different elements of it and what we said. So I think there's an element to go out there and to say to everyone, it doesn't matter what your opinions are. As long as you support the club and as long as you love the club, if you've had some bad fucking opinions and walked away from the club, come back because it's good here. It's fucking nice here at the moment and it's a nice place to be. Anyone want to find a word on that before I jump into the next bit? No?
All I was going to say, when I was trying to just get your attention there, all I wanted to say was something you said last week, which I really agreed with. And when I listened back to the pod last week, for me, I'm an Arsenal fan. It does spoil my weekend when we lose. It spoils my week when we lose, and it cheers me up no end when we win. But at the moment, it's enjoyable, whatever the result, I feel. While we have these players fighting for the badge and putting everything in, we will come across teams that will on the day be better than us. But all we've asked for years is those players to fight and work for the badge. We have seen so many celebrity superstars come into our club, the Willians, the David Luiz's, people who it's hard for us as supporters to get behind purely because they've played most of their career for other sides. They're not the sort of players that we've got now. I could never really get behind Luis. I thought Willian was a Chelsea player, and that's something we haven't got now. So something you said last week, Max, was it doesn't actually even matter about the results, and that's where I am. It's so much better when we win. But if I will go, I supported Arsenal for a good 15 20-year period back in the day when we didn't win anything, the odd FA Cup, but we didn't win league titles. We weren't competing for league titles. We were nowhere near. We were Everton. We were that 6th or 7th place team. And it was okay as long as those players put in a shift. And that's given me this balanced view, this positivity, because I look at what we've got now and I love it. You know, I really love it. And it's fantastic to watch. So enjoy it.
So Gabriel Jesus didn't score a goal. So he's shit. Fucking sell him. Sell him. No, on a serious note, I thought, and it is going to be a bit repetitive in these early weeks because we are going to be looking at players we haven't seen before, and there is a bit of a love in at the moment on Jesus. Ryan, can I just say that not even looking at his goals, not even looking at his touch and his clear athleticism, because that is a real upgrade on Xhaka, his tempo and his drive, his desire, his clear desire to not only want to win, but to want to take this opportunity in a way that I haven't seen a striker come into the club and want to take this opportunity. His hold-up play, the way he's turning and driving and interchanging with players, you know, those are things that aren't, I guess they're not necessarily skills related or heavily skills related. Those are things that are purely desire related. And I don't think that you can have that level of desire in an environment that is anything other than a really nice, wholesome environment at the moment for Arsenal. What are your thoughts?
There will be a question in a minute, Ryan. Honestly, somewhere
it's a statement. The end of it.
Trust me, Darren, I'm used to this by now. So it's interesting. So we have the benefit of being able to watch kind of behind the scenes of last season. I mean, I just finished the last 2 episodes and I didn't want to watch it, but I forced myself to do it anyway. And so we have a benefit. We kind of see Arteta behind the scenes. We see the players reacting behind the scenes. And we kind of know, from that, it's a great environment. The players kind of seem to be together. They seem to be kind of sort of moving as one. Obviously every team has their off day. And I think bringing in Gabriel Jesus, someone who's won things before, he's been on a team that's, top of the league, is always good because you still want that experience. And I think that's something that Arteta really focused on when he first became our manager. He wanted experience, wanted this sort of seniority to kind of, carry us through the period of having the youngest squad and having, some growing pains. But yeah, Jesus is amazing. He is just, it makes you realize what we didn't have last season, and watching him just link up with Martinelli, and I'm sure he'll link up with Xhaka. But I think for me, his relationship with Martinelli is probably the most interesting because when you had Lacazette on the pitch, he was just slow. Yes, he held the ball up fairly well. He would get stuck in too much. He would fall on the ground a lot. He was a lot slower. And Martinelli is just 1,000 miles an hour. Now that you have Gabriel Jesus, who's also like sort of 1,000 miles an hour, Martinelli's like, okay, like I see where you're going with this. Hopefully, Saka and Odegaard can kind of catch up a little bit because they're not the quickest players on our squad. But I think they're both obviously like very brilliant, intelligent players, and they will shine.
Am I wrong in this statement, Ryan, that the Martinelli and Jesus are very not Brazilian in the sense that they don't go down and they don't roll around on the floor, and they seem to be like quite robust, hard running? Because I got fucked off with that last year with Lacazette, because I thought when you should be dominating defenders, you're falling to the ground. Exactly. And so far from Jesus, when he's backing in and he's going to shoulder with players, for a man who I didn't think was physically very big, it was one of my statements when we signed him. I was like, he's not physically very big. And, we were looking at a Vlahovic, which maybe we dodged a bullet now, or we were looking at a Haaland. we were looking for these big physical strikers. Have you been impressed with how physical he is for someone whose stature isn't that big, or am I wrong there? Is he bigger than he looks?
I think it's a mix of both. I think he is a little bit bigger than he looks. I do have a friend who is a Man City fan, so I've seen Man City games. I've watched Man City with him, and I've seen Gabriel Jesus play, and he does play bigger than what he is. He is a player that's really quick with his feet, and I think that's something that I think should be talked about way more. I mean, we do talk about it, but just his technical skill with the ball, even in the box, just dribbling through players like it's no big thing. Very Henry-esque, I think is something that'll definitely help us in the long run. And to go back to the fact where, I also think they just don't go down because they know Arsenal. They know that we don't get any fucking calls. Sorry, taking my refs hat off. But yeah, no, it's great. And I think that, don't get me wrong. I do see Gabriel, especially Jesus in the future, going down when he needs to, when we need a call. But I think just technically with the ball in the box, I think it's huge for us because it's going to allow people who we'll talk about later, like Granit Xhaka, making late runs in the box, being open and being aware of what's going on and putting that ball into the net. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think he is bigger than what he is, but I think he's just really quick with his feet too.
Dazza, I've gotten my notes here. Ben White.
Can I just add on Jesus, or are you finishing on Jesus?
I was going to finish on him because you already called
him.
You already called him Ian Wright and said he was going to be Golden Boot last week, so we already know what you think of him.
It was just when you compared him to Aubameyang and Lacazette, and I think it's so amazing when you think we've got a player that holds the ball up much better than Lacazette and far more than Aubameyang ever did. His control is better than those two. He is unselfish compared to those two. He's better in the air than those two. He's stronger than those two. And then add the fact that he's a dribbler, and we haven't had that skill set from a centre forward for a long time, and the fact that he's a much better finisher than the two of them. And we only got him for 45 million, and he turned down Chelsea.
The last time I was this surprised by a striker was Eduardo. When someone came into the club and I was like, I don't think that much of the signing was Eduardo. Yeah,
it's just an incredible piece of business. It's an incredible piece of business. I really didn't realise how good this was.
At the price, that's looking like £70 million signing.
I mean, to be fair, I think we lucked out a little bit because they knew Haaland was coming in. Man City are a team where it's like, in my opinion, the two top teams are Man City and Liverpool. And I think with Man City and Liverpool, they're night and day in what they do. And the fact that Man City's like, we're just going to have a different striker every season. Like, we don't care. They want the flavor.
I would have said that about Liverpool last year, but I said at the start of this season to a couple of my Liverpool friends who are Liverpool fans, that one of the things that Liverpool had done exceptionally well and got themselves into a good position was when it was time to move people on, they were ruthless and they took the money. And I think that Liverpool team looks a season too old, a little bit too jaded, and they haven't turned it over. And I think they could struggle this season. I mean, you had the opportunity to go get Coutinho money for Salah. You didn't. You had the opportunity to move Mane on 12 months earlier, and Mane would have gone for fucking £70 million. He didn't. He went for £20 million. You've still got Milner running around out there. You've still got Henderson running around out there. Virgil van Dijk is not that he's on the decline necessarily, but it's very hard.
But that was the key. Did you watch the game last night, Max? Did you watch the Manchester United game last night?
No, I watched the mini this morning.
I just thought there was a couple of things that came out of that to me. Van Dijk, there was an argument after Manchester United's goal between James Milner and Van Dijk. And Klopp was asked about it afterwards, and you could see when they showed the replay, Van Dijk is standing there just standing there with his arms behind his back to block the ball from 5 yards away, while the guy Sancho does 2 or 3 tricks. And Milner, I'm sure we're saying to him, fly into that. He could have made up that ground and flown into that tackle, like you're seeing Leeds players doing, like you're seeing Arsenal's players do, like you're seeing Brentford players do, like you're seeing Newcastle players do. They were just standing around Liverpool. Manchester United wanted it more, and because of that, they won the football match.
But one of the reasons why Man City have been successful for a long time is they've ruthlessly turned over people and kept people hungry.
Yeah, agreed.
Because they can too. They have money coming at their asses.
Even if you look back at old-fashioned Manchester United teams and things like, they didn't keep people around for huge amounts of time. Like, it wasn't short amounts of time that they were turning over all the time. But you look at the expanse of time of Van Nistelrooy was there, or the expanse of time different players there. They made sure that they bought players in their peak, especially for strikers. They bought players in their peak, and when they ceased to be in their peak, they moved them on. I mean, that's why Wenger had a 1 year for over 30s policy, to keep moving people on. And it's very difficult in any form of business, anywhere you go. getting up to the point of being very good, it's always easy to motivate people to get them to want to be the best. The real key to a top manager and a really top team, whether it be, corporate or sporting, is being able to maintain those same levels of motivation once you're already on top of your game, and creating those ideas of how do I push this out even further and how do we become better and better and better. And I think that's a level of ruthlessness that the tribalism of football isn't willing to accept sometimes, because they fall in love with their players, and you want to see Bergkamp stay until he's 34, and you want Tony Adams to stay forever. But I think fans have to decide in some ways. They have to decide what they watch football for. Do you watch football to love your players and to love your team? Would you purely watch football to win? Look at Chelsea fans. I mean, they would turn over a manager every 2 years. They have people come in and win the premiership. They'll still fuck them off after 2 years. Yeah, they'll still fuck them off after a year and a half. They don't give a fuck, because they put a new person in there with a new squad and they're still hungry. And I think that's something that global football fans really struggle with at the moment. They really struggle with this battle of trying to understand whether or not they're in it to win it, or whether or not they're in it for the joy of it. And for directors of football and people like Edu and Vinay and guys like that, these guys have to balance between how far they keep pushing, how far they strive. And I think it's easy to be Arsenal at the moment, is what I'm saying. I think the position we're in at the moment, getting up to the top, I think it's an easier position than to be on top, winning, have won the Champions League, have won the Premier League, and saying to the same group of players for another year, go out there and fucking murder yourself to do it again. And it needs to be turned over.
I think also what helps too is just Man City. Like I said, Man City just generates money at their ass, so they can be like, "Oh, hey, Aguero, like you're really good. You've done really well for us, but we're just gonna go buy Haaland."
But remember what he did. Remember what he did to Aguero with fucking Jesus.
Again, but that's what they do with exactly.
He remotivated Aguero all over again. Aguero was gone. He was out of that fucking team. Yeah. And he managed to remotivate him, and Aguero went and scored another 35 goals. I think Pep's I think Pep understands that part of the game. And what I hope is that Arteta coming from that, and what we've seen in Arteta with his willingness to chin people and his willingness to move people on, his willingness to move Aubameyang on, that speaks to me of more modern in his approach than what people would think he is in the modernness of his approach. Yes, he's about silly diagrams and getting people together, and some speeches that, some of the young guys might be sitting there saying, this is fucking stupid, put the light globe down, you fucking lunatic. But I think the other side of it, when you look at his decisions, you look at his willingness to move on Hale End Academy boys, to move on Willocks, to try and move on AMNs, to get Reece Nelsons out of the club, to move on Hecky B, and to bring in new players, to bring back in Saliba, knowing that he had a centre-back pairing that had worked incredibly well last season. And yes, there's an injury and Ben White's gone out to the right. But I still think in years gone past, another manager would have said, no, Saliba's the new guy to the club. He can sit on the bench and I'll find someone to play right back. I'll find a right back to play right back. I think that's very fucking ballsy.
That's why we recruited the youngest. It's why we had the youngest squad in the Premier League. I think to kind of allow Arteta to be this way, to be able to mold, to be able to do what we can, because our recruiting, our profile is obviously very young. That's it's no secret, and I think we kind of took from what Pep's doing, because I do agree with that how we could just easily motivate people and get some younger guys out, but yet still have a young core and have this core, and kind of like, again, I'm spoiling a little bit of All or Nothing, which we may talk about later, but when Arteta said, hey, whatever we do, we had to do, but just take a break and we'll be back next season. And like most of the players are back next season, and that's probably going to be the case for us for the next seasons to come, unless obviously, players down tools, attitudes change.
I think he's ruthless. Darren, I think Arteta's ruthless. I think that if he thinks that there's a better guy out there now, I think he will do what needs to be done.
Within the parameters, it's interesting. We may not have even seen Saliba if Tomiyasu was fit. It would have made sense to stick with the pairing that we had towards the end of last year. Wyatt and Gabriel may well have played. Saliba may have been on the bench. We may not have been having this love affair with him. And you never know, he may have been really discontent wanting to play in Marseille. And now, just through a freak of luck that Tomiyasu's injured, White has gone to right back, Saliba has played, the connection with the fans is so clear, we may just have enabled the signing of a longer contract for Saliba just through a freak of luck that Tomiyasu was injured.
Dazza, has Ben White just solved quite a bit of a problem for Arsenal? Because I put in my notes, he's quite a good right back. He actually plays quite similar to Tomiyasu in the sense that in possession, he's not going to bomb miles past and go beyond Xhaka, so he doesn't choke up that channel and push Xhaka inside the way Cedric did, who then crowded the middle and pushed Ødegaard over. Does that solve a couple of different problems for us? Right now, if Tomiyasu's fit, I'm not rushing Tomiyasu back into the team. Ben White's done nothing wrong at right back.
It's a difficult situation now, but a good situation. And this is where you talk about Arteta being ruthless. Arteta will pick what is best for Arsenal Football Club. Every decision he's made so far, whether they be right or wrong, has been done with the mindset that this is good for Arsenal Football Club. And, moving on Aubameyang for the reasons he did, it's great. I haven't watched all or Nothing. I've got to say, I got a bit bored after 3 episodes. It's like reading a book when you know the ending. It's been difficult for me to get behind because we know what happens in the end, and it's not a very good ending. But, when you see your captain of your club turning up in a gold Maserati with a gold tracksuit, I think, oh, for fuck's sake, fuck off. But, the distance between us and the fans, between us and the players, us fans and the players, it's so vast. And this seems to be a hungry group of players that we can all believe in. Go on, Max, get to your next question.
Ryan. Considering the way,
no.
Well, who's next? I'm throwing it around the room. Both.
I was just gonna say real quickly about Ben White. He played right back for Leeds, so he's used to it. He knows how to play right back. I think what he brings a little more to the table than Tomiyasu did was he could carry the ball, he could dribble the ball. He's another outlet for us. We don't need to solely rely on Paul, which is always great. And I think it's also too while I do think he plays a lot like Tomiyasu, because they're both also center backs. They also know how to play center back. Tomiyasu plays center back for Japan, for the national team. I think it's good to have that because, the way our system is, our left back is in the midfield more times than not. So you need a right back that has that.
Ryan, it really, like we had planned it segues into the next question because when you consider the way Kieran Tierney plays, in the sense that he is a guy who wants to get down the wing, he wants to get forward, get really far forward, get really far down the wing, for that matter, with chalk on his boots. And pissed me off when he played considerably last season because I thought he relentlessly smashed balls into the box where there was no one there to head them. And people said, oh, it's not his fault, we need a target man. And my argument was, well, don't fucking do it if there's no one there to hit it because you're just going to keep smashing balls into the box. I also thought at times Tierney in particular heavily exposed Granit Xhaka last season, really hung him out to dry a bit because we know that Granit's a little bit unathletic. But one of the balance points this season that's been really interesting watch is Zinchenko playing at left back isn't as much of a wide running chalk on his boots left back. He's pulling much more into a number 8 position, which is allowing us to be in that back 3 in possession. It's pushing Xhaka miles further up the pitch, which takes him away from where he is most dangerous, which is getting fucking turned. And it's also provided Martinelli with quite a lot of license to receive the ball wide, not constantly be on the overlap. I'm not sure that Kieran Tierney, for all of the great love that everyone has for him being this, old-fashioned football-loving guy, Ryan, I'm not so sure that KT balances this team as well as Zinchenko does right now. Thoughts?
So what's interesting was I actually disagree with you a little bit, and with a lot of people say, because a lot of people agree with you and say oh, he loves to bomb forward, he loves crossing the ball in. I think that's Arteta. I think that's what Arteta drilled into him. I think, hey, you can't really tuck in the middle. We don't really see you as a midfielder. Let's have you bomb forward. We need to be heavy on one side, and the left side's the side we chose. And so, hey, bomb forward, put balls in, make things happen in the box, whatever. I think he is more of Tomiyasu, more of a Ben White, where he is a center back. Also, he's played left center back for Scotland. He played a little bit of center back at Celtic. So he is someone that has very center back tendencies like a Ben White, like a Takahiro Tomiyasu. So like having him bomb forward, I think is almost to his detriment, but I think it was more towards Arteta's cause to more what Arteta wants to do. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what we do with Kieran Tierney, because, we have also somebody on loan, Nuno Tavares, who is doing pretty well for Marseille in the French league. And Nuno suits our system more than Kieran Tierney does. Nuno is someone that can kind of pull into the midfield. He likes to kind of bomb up a little bit on the left too, but he's a runner. He wants to run. He's almost like I know Nuno's not really the best defensively, but he's more of a defensive Martinelli, where he can run around with his head cut off. He can carry the ball.
I've been very impressed with Zinchenko.
I'm getting to
his tackling and his tenacity.
I think Zinchenko is a mix of both of those, but I think Zinchenko's got a little bit of KT in him, and he's got a lot of Nuno in him. And I think he also just best fits Arteta's system more than both of them. I think he's going to allow us to push forward, and I completely agree with you. I think he's going to allow Xhaka to get out of those positions, and I think that's why. And yes, I think Xhaka did have a good season last season, but I think he has been a step above that. And everyone's like, "Oh no, he's always been this good." To all the people that like to jerk Xhaka off. Oh, he's always been this good.
We'll get to that motherfucker. We'll get to that motherfucker.
But I think Zinchenko allows a lot of different wheels to turn, and I think that's going to help us out. Now, what's going to happen with Kieran Tierney and Nuno is another story, and that's going to be interesting. But yeah, I love Zinchenko.
Darren, is it a reductive conversation because we need 2 left backs and there's fucking lots and lots of games?
Yeah, and I also think if you look at the opposition we've played, we've been the dominant team in these games. Even Crystal Palace, they played out with Zaha down the other side of the pitch. So it's allowed Zinchenko to come in, and Zinchenko was a midfield player or in a number 10 before Pep converted him to a left back. And if you listen to some comments from Manchester City fans, they say he was a very good going forward and very good in midfield, technically excellent, but wasn't a very good defender. Now, obviously, the older he gets, the more he plays in that position, the better he's going to get. But I think when we're starting to play against teams that are better and stronger, and I think towards the end of last year, when Tierney was fit to play, Arteta changed that system. He didn't have him bombing down like he used to. He actually sat back and defended, and we played with a back four. Same with Tomiyasu on the other side. So I think horses for courses. I think when we're up against better opposition, then I think you'll see Tierney come back, and we've got to remember he's an excellent player, and I think what Ryan said is right. When he was bombing down the wing and you leave Xhaka, or you said it, Max, you leave Xhaka exposed, that was a fault. So I think Arteta identified that and changed the way Tierney was playing towards the end of the season. And then the problem is he gets injured regularly. I mean, he really does. He's very fragile, probably overplayed as a youngster. He's been playing top flight football for a long time. And Zinchenko is a breath of fresh air because he's fit, he's energetic, and he's technically so good. So, but I do think that we will see them both play in that position. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Zinchenko come in for maybe Xhaka at times as well and play in the middle of the park, because he's been so important to us. The calmness on the ball, it just gives us all an extra second or two to think. And that's where Xhaka, when they put him at left back, that speed of thought isn't there, and that technical ability isn't quite as good. Same with Tierney. But I don't see it's a problem. I say it's just another real... we tried to get Martinez, who went to Manchester United, and I watched him again last night. And again, I will say, I think he is going to be an exceptional player for Manchester United. But as a centre half at 5'9" in the Premier League is a challenge. But if we'd have bought him and put him at left back, then we would be seeing what Zinchenko is doing for us. That is what Arteta wanted. He wanted a left back who could go into that number 8 position and allow more players to get forward. He's a very smart footballer. But I think Tomiyasu is also excellent. It's going to be a real challenge. But yeah, there are games to play and there are injuries. And we're in a much better position than we have been for many, many years.
It'll be interesting to see what we do against the big teams. Because I agree. I think we definitely should play Tierney at left back when we play those big teams. But what if he's hurt? Do we maybe see us going into a back 3? I don't know. I think we have so many different ways.
We play in a back 3 in possession. So I don't see why we have to get stuck into these conversations of what system we're playing. And watching us play, we're so fluid.
Well, Arteta doesn't have a system, but I guess seeing the X's and O's on the board, yeah.
I think that Arteta, if he was putting his X's and O's on the board, I think you'd essentially see with the way we're set up now that it's kind of an adapted back three. Anyway, guys, I had tried in the first couple of episodes to avoid talking about what's it fucking called? What was
All or Nothing?
All or Nothing. There's another one, a rugby one, that I got mixed up with. But I avoided talking about it because I'm very aware of the fact when something is edited, it's edited towards an outcome. And I think people need to fucking recognize that when they're making commentary on essentially what is thousands and thousands of hours of footage that has been recorded, where they have handpicked certain things to be able to create a certain narrative, right? Let me just put that out there now. So in what I'm about to say, please just accept the fact that I also understand that we don't see everything. And this is just based on what I saw. But I had grown to quite like Granit Xhaka again. Yeah. And after watching All or Nothing, I was amazed by how many people proclaimed how much of an incredible leader he was based on how he was perceived in All or Nothing. Now, let me preface this with the fact that I have studied leadership at a master's level, so I have a very good understanding of. But I'm just saying I'm coming from a point of a educated area where there are certain things that you look for, or certain things that I look for in leaders, and how certain people essentially perceive leadership. And I found it really interesting that people perceived Granit Xhaka telling his teammates that it was shit and telling his teammates that's bad and we need to go out and do something, that they perceived that as leadership. Because I didn't. I perceived that as at certain points, sometimes the loudest person in the room feels like they're being the leader, and the quietest person in the room are often the person who leads through their actions or who leads through their softer words and how they go and get their arms around people and look after people. That for me holds more weight as a leader than someone doing what Granit Xhaka did. And again, let me just preface, I know that it was an edit. I didn't see that as something to be lauded. To me, I saw that as someone who felt that they needed to do that, or that because they were the most senior person, or they perceived themselves as the most senior person. I would not. The thing that it made me realize most watching Granit Xhaka do that was it made me realize, one, how possibly over-dominant he is in that aspect of his leadership in the Arsenal change room, because there were other senior players in there not saying anything. But it also made me realize that maybe we don't have, or not maybe, it made me realize that we definitely don't have the quantity of leaders across all perceivable levels in that football club to be able to have sensible conversations. Ryan, it's a weird thing because so much of Twitter decided they liked Granit Xhaka more because they perceived him yelling as him caring, and therefore he was being a good leader. Am I crazy? Am I crazy to walk out of this and think there were elements there that I looked at and I was like, I don't like that. Shut your fucking mouth. Get back out there on the pitch and go fucking do something, because you are not absolved of guilt. You've lost more fucking games for Arsenal than anyone else. You've thrown a fucking captain's armband on the floor. You sent off fucking twice last season. Granted, once I didn't think you should have been sent off. The other time you nearly broke the cunt's fucking leg. I don't think that he necessarily had the right, and the way he was edited and the way he was perceived, to be necessarily acting like that.
So again, I agree, disagree. So the whole All or Nothing, I just finished it, and during most of it, I was like, wow, like I actually was going to like him during the documentary. I was like, oh, he's very smart. A lot of players keep preferencing him. Odegaard recently in an interview says, well, when I need advice to be a captain, I go to Xhaka. He's the guy. And Eddie and Kedia said he's going to be he's going to be a good manager. Everyone's preferencing him, like, okay, they went to his home, like, all right, I'm starting to like him. And it was up until the very last episode. Sorry, Darren, you might want to cover yours. A little spoiler alert. I think we were losing to Newcastle, or it was 0-0 in Newcastle, or it might have been North London Derby. I don't know. He's sitting there and he's just screaming, fuck this, wake the fuck up. And he's just screaming expletives. And I'm like, well, you're not really accomplishing anything. And I think, again, it goes to what you're saying. He's being the loud voice in the room, and he's just trying to be heard. And to me, if I'm in the dressing room, I'm not motivated by that. And to me, like, if you're the leader and that everybody goes to, and you're the most senior player, Take some fucking responsibility. Don't just say fuck, wake up. That means absolutely nothing to fucking Nuno Tavares. That doesn't mean anything.
Especially to a
Aaron
room
Ramsey.
of people, Ryan, who, if you look at the edit, was staring at the floor and
Yeah,
knew
exactly.
that their season was gone and couldn't get it up. And I was like, that is not the fucking time where you would come in. You know, I would expect a leader to stand up and say, you know, guys, this is our time. I believe in us. I believe we can go out there and do it. Follow me. Watch me. I'm going to lead us and I'm going to take us to the next part. And I remember those games. And I fucking remember Granit Xhaka being a 9 out of 10 on the fucking pitch and having the right to stand there and say, you're all fucking shit and I'm not. No, it didn't sit well with me. But the thing that surprised me most, Darren, the thing that surprised me most about it was about how many people perceived that as something to be lauded, perceived that as something to be essentially rewarded, that he cared so much because he shouts and screams and swears and carries on. He must care so much.
It's hard for me to comment on the episode because, as I say, I haven't watched it and probably will. But I was surprised how bored I got very quickly because, as I say, it's watching a book where I know the ending. But some captains are like that, and maybe that's edited so they've done that bit. But in other parts, he has got his arm around people. The best captains were the Tony Adams who I watched, who would scream and berate his fellow players on the field constantly if they weren't up to the standard.
Granit Xhaka is no Tony Adams.
Well, no, but you say you're only seeing part of it. So if everyone holds him in such high esteem, there must be other parts of his character, because some people probably do need shouting at. Some people do need dragging up. Some people were possibly thinking of their holidays, thinking at the end of the season, not caring as much. So Tony Adams used to scream and shout at people on the pitch, you know, and we didn't all think, oh, I wish he wouldn't shout. You know, he should put his arm around him. I think the key to leadership is having a mix of those things, knowing which players to rev up, which players need an arm around them. You know, Ødegaard is our captain now, and, you know, he's a very mild-mannered. He's sort of like Clark Kent, isn't he, before the Superman change? And you can imagine Arsenal have put him in charge because it probably help him be happy at the club. He leads by example. He's a good professional. But I can't see him screaming and shouting or putting his arm around people.
Fucking Lacazette had the armband last season, Darren. Yeah. And if you watch the show, Lacazette's fucking almost crying every episode.
I'm just saying that. I think
very Koscielny-esque.
Yeah, very, 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 very odd. Like, very odd. He really.
It's got to be a French thing, I guess. No, I don't know.
He really looked like the weight of the world was just fucking crushing him, and it begs certain questions. But I guess, you know, to take it away from the Xhaka thing for a second, one thing it made me realize was that there weren't enough winners in that room. There weren't enough people who had been there before, who had dragged themselves up by their bootstraps before and had won, to be able to get the collective of players together. Because as a manager, that's no different for me being a boss and having staff. You can't always be in the trenches with them. And for a manager, you do to some extent stand on the sidelines. You can give them the best training and you can give them the best instruction. And if they go out and they can't execute it, you can't go out there and kick a ball for them. You can't go and make a tackle for them. And when I looked around that room in All or Nothing, and again, Darren, like you said, I wasn't super into watching it. I only watched it because I felt that if I didn't watch it, I wouldn't be able to pass comment on it. I actually said I wasn't fucking interested in watching it, but it's going to become a point of conjecture. So it is what it is. I watched it. It was fucking miserable in the 8th episode. I wish I hadn't watched it. It was like it's like watching your fucking wedding video after you get divorced. Like fucking stupid. Just fucking awful.
The one thing I want to say really quick about leadership, which I kind of disagreed with you a little bit, was when you said that there are no leaders from past teams. We actually, we have a lot. You know, Stanby was the captain of Anderlecht at a very young age. You had Celtic for Tierney. Tierney wore the captain arms in a few times for Scotland. Tomiyasu wore it for Japan.
That's the point I was getting at, Ryan. And it's like they weren't showing it. There were no voices in the room. Granit Xhaka's voice was the loudest voice in the room.
A bit like yours now, Max.
Yeah, that's what very similar to me. So I understand there are leaders there, but what I
which is weird because
why I'm actually relatively
Granit Xhaka has done shit for us as far as winnings. Like, why is he the loudest voice in the room? I don't know.
I think that's what I was getting at to Darren. You know, when Tony Adams is fucking shouting, I've worked for guys. I used to work for a guy called Hadam Salah, who was a notorious fucking psychopath, right? But he was the best. And when a guy who's the best is fucking yelling at you and saying you're not good enough, and you look at that guy and you say, I have the utmost respect for you and you've done everything in my industry, then you fucking get up and you fucking follow the guy.
I think that's why that's why Tony Adams was so successful, because he always led by example. He never had a dull moment in a game. He was always 100%, always drunk, always 100% committed. He was an amazing character. I watched. I know it's old, and know a lot of people don't know him. Only now is the man who's going to appear in Strictly Come Dancing here in the UK. I don't know if you heard that. You must all have a ballroom dancing show. You must have that in the franchise. Must have done it.
I don't watch garbage.
No, I don't watch it. But it's a huge show here, and Tony Adams is going to be in this year's BBC Strictly Come Dancing. So which I just wish he wouldn't. He needs a drink. He's learned to play the piano, and now he's learning to ballroom dance. It's not the captain I remember, because I remember as a 17-year-old, he came on, to make his debut, 17 years old, and was a leader from the first moment, alongside David O'Leary, and would scream at him. He was performing. So I get the bit. If Xhaka's not the best player, it's very difficult for just to scream and shout.
I think Xhaka perceives himself as that. And there's a thing in leadership. I forgot what the actual term was, but it's like projective leadership. And it's where people start acting like the person they want to become. And it's a really bad form of leadership, because you don't have the runs on the board. So it's like, I work for a CEO. The CEO acts like that because I want to be a CEO. I'm going to act like that CEO, but you don't have the respect that he has. So it's this, like, you project yourself into the position. That's what I got. But just to round it up on this, I think that those two signings of Jesus and Zinchenko, I think they're massive. I think if you're in the same position or in a similar position this season, and you've got someone looking around a room and you're looking for people to lead you, being able to look in that room and see people who have won Premier Leagues, who have gone to Champions League finals, people who have genuinely won things and come out of top systems, we are now incredibly better for the removal of personalities like Lacazette and personalities like Aubameyang. We're better for that and we haven't seen what Zinchenko and Jesus are like in the dressing room, but purely just on the fact that they have come from winning environments.
Don't you think, sorry, Max, to interrupt, but I think that's really key with those two signings. And I might be wrong here. It might just be financial, but I feel that both of those players have joined Arsenal Football Club to better their careers. They haven't dropped down a big level where they want to be a superstar in a small side. They have bought into the potential of this side and believe that in 3 or 4 years' time, they can again achieve those targets. I don't think they've come as an easy payday, and we've had too many of those players over the past 2 or 3 years.
If anything, Darren, it's the opposite of that. They have come into a system where now it's like, you are now the guy. Go be the guy. You could get lost at City. There's always someone else to pick up some slack. If you're not playing, Sterling's playing. If Sterling's not playing, Aguero's playing. I mean, these guys have come in, Darren. I couldn't agree more. They've come in and they've been told,
spent $100 million on him, and
absolutely.
Yeah, shit's easy, but no one's even talking about it because they're just another guy. It's like, who gives a shit? They just do what they want to do. But yeah, again, to the Jesus being a leader and being with us in those tough times. I mean, just look, the proof is in the pudding. He is. What is he? Him and Xhaka are vice captains. I don't think I've heard of a player coming to a club so soon and already being a vice captain. I mean, that shows something. And I think it's more than just him winning at City. I think he actually brings something as far as leadership to the table. So that's going to be interesting for us to see.
All right. Every week I've been trying to come up with something that we can have a quick round table about for the last 5 minutes of the show. Last week it was about Judases. And this week, it's about unrequited love. So I wanted to go around. For once, Darren, instead of just dumping you in it, I actually put it in a message a couple of days.
Yeah, but I didn't read it. I remember thinking before the podcast, I'll sit down and read what we're going to talk about. And then, of course, I forgot. I was building a wall and forgot all about the podcast.
Well, I listened. The reason why I did some brief agenda is I listened to the first 2 podcasts and I thought, from start to finish, Max, you had no idea where you were going. Like, no idea at all. I mean, I know I've always had no idea, but usually I've got some small idea. I really went into this season having no idea what I was doing. But unrequited love, boys. One player who didn't make it at Arsenal, and they have to have not made it. And my definition of not made it is they had to have been moved on in some ways ambiguously. Not moved on and gone to better things or better clubs, moved on somewhat ambiguously and never really done what you thought they were going to do. But when they were coming through, you thought that they were going to be the absolute shit. I'll start. Carlos Vela. When I first saw Carlos Vela in the FA Cups, I think he chip the keeper twice in a hat-trick, 2 chips in a hat-trick in the FA Cup. I thought that he was going to be the single fucking greatest player in the world. I think I may have even made comments of him reminding me of fucking Ronaldo. Went on to have a fantastic career internationally for Mexico, and I think he's the highest goal scorer in the American League in history.
Yeah, he's actually the best player on LAFC. Yeah, he's really good.
It's been the best player of all time, but just never made it. So that was my I had many. I had lots and lots and lots I thought about. Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He's not gone yet, so I couldn't choose him because I really.
Why not?
Really, well, because he hasn't gone yet. They have to have left, right?
No, you didn't say that. You didn't say that.
I already chose him. It's too late.
Oh, okay, Ryan.
It's funny. My other one I was going to choose, who he hasn't gone yet either. I'm not going to reveal who that is, but no, yeah. I mean, I chose AMN. I think I chose him because I was actually going to choose Guendouzi at first, but then I was just like,
Guendouzi would have been one. I called Guendouzi a future Arsenal captain.
I agree with you. I think I might have done that podcast because I think the same way. I think he's definitely a future captain. Granted, he's had a bust up with every manager he's came in contact with at Marseille, so I don't know about that. But yeah, I mean, he's a good shout.
Go with Ainsley. Go with AMN. Give us.
I think AMN is the most athletic player. Yeah, I think he's the most athletic player to play for Arsenal in quite some time.
Two quick things before I do mine. Then one, Ainsley Maitland-Niles. I don't get it because I've watched a lot of Arsenal and I never thought he was any good. Never thought he was.
I've got an Ainsley shirt.
I know you got a lot of shit shirts. I know you got your Welbeck one 5 years too early. He's playing.
Hey! I was actually going to say Welbeck, but I didn't want to tear up talking about Welbeck.
That guy doesn't count. That guy doesn't count as unrequited.
Ainsley Maitland-Niles didn't have the concentration. He isn't clever enough to play for a club under Arsene Wenger and now under Mikel Arteta.
What about Carlos Vela?
He switches off. You know what? I can't even remember him. So that's how bad he was.
That's good.
And he was in the Walcott Bentner, like Carlos Vela era. They were all vying for like the same fucking spot in the team.
I've watched a lot of Arsenal. I've forgotten a lot of players. I just want to mention one that Hambo Gumbel was just mentioned in the comments because I was thinking of him as one of mine. David Bentley. His debut for Arsenal, his first touch when he came on as a substitute, it was in an FA Cup or a League Cup game, and he tried to chip the keeper from 35 yards, and it hit the crossbar. And I thought then, we've got a great player. He never did. Do you know, my one, I'm going to stick to somebody who is still at the club as well. And sadly, that's Hector Bellerin, because I watched him in his first 2 or 3 years, and I thought he was going to be club captain and our superstar all his career. Loved the club.
I don't know if you could call Hecky be unrequited. He's played 150 fucking games.
But he hasn't become the player. Where is he in our pecking order now? Fourth?
I don't think that's unrequited. I think he was requited. We just saw that he wasn't quite good
What's
enough.
Unrequited love? I loved him and thought he was going to be the best. And unfortunately, 6 years on, he is fourth choice right back at Arsenal. You know, that's where we are with Hector.
Yeah.
I'm just racking my fucking brains for a second. Truly unrequited. Someone who came in who was.
There was a few. I mean, Jack Wilshere.
I was a big Ceballos. I was a big Ceballos fan. I was a big Ceballos fan for 6 months. Your favorite
Chile Bios?
I was a big Ceballos fan when he came in. I thought he was going to be the fucking shit. It's funny how your brain removes these players. As they don't.
Senderos, first couple of games. What a beautiful footballer. First couple of games. First couple of games, you thought, wow, we've found a footballer who can hit a 35-yard ball cross field, but he couldn't defend.
I like the Wobie. I don't know if we would consider Wobie. He's doing really
I
good
don't know.
in Everton.
So, actually,
never good enough.
No, I agree. But I think his skill set and what he offered us could have helped us probably in the last few years. We're trying to be creative. He's a very creative player. He couldn't finish worth the shit once he got into 18-yard box. This shout from Cornell isn't bad. It says his name's John Hayden. It's not. His name's fucking Cornell. And he's not black. He's fucking white with a name like Cornell.
And he's gone for Kolasinac.
He's gone for Kolasinac. But where I will understand what he's saying with
I get what he's saying.
Oh, yeah, actually, he was good.
Fucking Kolasinac first couple of games, he was the shit. We were like, fucking go Said.
Yeah.
He was bombing down.
He was left back of the year in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, in the Bundesliga.
We were excited. And we got it for free. We were like, oh, okay, this is easy. We could do this.
Well, free in about 120,000 free.
Wow. Yeah, that's true.
A week.
I like Joel Campbell. I would probably say Joel Campbell.
Joel fucking Campbell.
I'm a huge Joel Campbell fan. And where I didn't pick him is because, and I guess this is probably when I should have picked him. I thought he was, what season was it? 2013, 2014? I thought he was easily our best player, but Wenger just never played him.
He couldn't get into the team. It was Oxlade-Chamberlain, Gnabry, and Walcott he was trying to get in over at that point.
I don't know if was Gnabry still on our team.
Gnabry was still there.
Yeah, I think he was.
Gnabry was still there. In fact, I think that might have been Gnabry's little breakthrough season that he had.
Yeah.
Anyway, we like to do an hour. We've done an hour.
Love Joel Campbell. Fuck.
I'm thinking of one for next week now, Max. He should be worst signing that promised so much. There's one for you to think about.
Dennis Suarez. Easy, done.
Okay, we won't go into it this week. We'll try go into that next week and have a whole week to think about it. So next week's one is going to be
worst signing that promised
someone
so
who
much.
got signed that you genuinely thought this man will change. This man will change the fucking club. He will change the fabric of the club. Anyway, to finish up, it's a very uncomfortable position to be in where we are at the moment as Arsenal fans. It's an uncomfortable position because we haven't been here for so long. We're staring down at the rest of the league right now. I think that we have to enjoy the journey. We have to enjoy the ride. We have to enjoy how we're going to get there. I don't think that this team is necessarily going to win the league, but I also don't think that we should give a flying fuck whether we are or whether we aren't going to win the league. Because even if we get close, even if we get a sniff, like I said at the start of the show, you have to believe that you can do it. You have to believe that you can fuck the prettiest girl in the room. Because if you walk up to the prettiest girl in the room and even one part in your brain says, I can't fuck her, you have failed. You have failed before you started. So if the Premier League is a hot girl, Arsenal has to look in the mirror, slick back its hair, maybe have a wank or two. Maybe have a couple of wanks just to make sure that their balls are empty so that they know that if they do get to the promised land, if they do get there, they're not just going to fucking two-pump and jizz it.
You got fingers, two in the pink, one in the stink. We're going to get there. We're going to get there.
We're going to get there. And I believe in us. I've got to press the button. As usual, I didn't tee up the button. We'll be back next week. Same time, same show. No, and I remembered to press record this week. Good night. This is an ArseBrothers production. Follow us on Twitter @TheArseBrothers. Get all our content on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, and SoundCloud @ArseBros. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to smash that subscribe button.